we begin in New York and a live look where the fate of former President Donald Trump remains in the hands of a New York jury. Deliberations will resume in about a half an hour from now. Trump faces 34 criminal counts of falsifying business records to cover up hush money payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels. The jury deliberated for 4 hours yesterday. At one point, the 7 men and 5 women asked to review key testimony about a 2015 meeting between Trump and former fixer Michael Cohen and tabloid publisher David Pecker. It was at that meeting an alleged scheme was hatched to catch and kill damaging stories about Trump to give him an edge in the 2016 election. Joining me now to discuss where we are is presidential historian Allan Lichtman. Allan, good morning. Great to see you.
Good to see you, my friend.
So this is the first full day of deliberations for the jury. They were at it for 4 hours yesterday, and as we just mentioned, they asked for clarification on the judge's instructions and David Pecker's testimony. This tells you what?
This tells me, number one, they're taking this very seriously, really looking very carefully at the evidence. Two, this is not good news for Donald Trump, because David Pecker's testimony was critical. It started the whole process, as you said, of attempting to quash unfavorable stories to Donald Trump, not to avoid embarrassment to his family, but to help his campaign. And that testimony directly linked David Pecker, Donald Trump, and Michael Cohen as the agent for Donald Trump, thus setting in motion the crimes to which Trump is being accused.
Allan, if Trump is convicted on even one of the 34 charges, he will be the first president to be a convicted felon. Can you just put that into perspective? What is the historical significance of that?
The significance is enormous. And, I have to say, I don't know about the Canadian media, but the American media has really blown it badly when it's come to the significance of this trial. They continue to call it a hush money trial. It's not a hush money trial. It's an election fraud trial, much like many of his other trials. They diminish it, saying, oh, it's not nearly as important as the other trials. Well, it's of grave importance of itself. It doesn't matter that there may be other trials that are more important. If you're on trial for rape, that's still significant, even though you may be later on trial for serial murder. We have never had not just a former president, but a major party presidential candidate even indicted for crime, much less convicted of crime. And remember, presidents are one nationally elected leader, and they are supposed to be a model for the country. You can't be a model for the country if you're a convicted felon. And this is not an isolated incident. Let's not forget, Donald Trump was convicted of enormous real estate fraud civilly, convicted of sexually assaulting a woman civilly. His charity was seen to be a fraud to enrich himself. This is a pattern of behavior that, should be a bright light warning to every American voter of the kind of threat that Donald Trump poses to the rule of law and democracy in this country.
Well, just on the sexual misconduct and the extramarital affairs, in the past that has taken down other candidates, and yet it seems to sort of be forgotten about. But that's a whole other conversation. What I do want to ask you, Allan, and tap into your knowledge, and it's the question that people ask me all the time. How can he still run for president if he is convicted? What does the Constitution, what did the founding fathers, did they think of that? How can you run for president if you have been convicted of a crime?
Amazingly, you can. Being free of conviction for crime is not one of the criteria for running for president. It has to do with citizenship, residency, and age, and that's it. One of the great ironies here is that if Donald Trump is convicted of a felony, he probably won't be able to vote in his new home state of Florida. He's barred from voting, but he is not barred from running for president of the United States. But the voters need to take this into account and not just dumb down our moral standards.
Final question for you this morning, and I know I'm asking you to guess, but do you think that the jury will reach a verdict today?
I think there's a very good chance the jury will reach a verdict today, or if not tomorrow. They're taking this seriously. And if you ask me to guess, I think Donald Trump is in deep trouble. I think the odds are he will be convicted by this jury. The evidence against him is overwhelming. It's not just Michael Cohen. And as you saw, the jurors are focusing on the critical testimony of David Pecker, who, unlike Cohen, is a Trump loyalist.
But you know, Allan, already, and we're just looking at live pictures of Trump's motorcade. As he arrives, he has to be there. He has to be at the courthouse while the jury is deliberating. People are already saying he can't get a fair trial in New York. When you look at the makeup of the jury, the Manhattan jury, he can't get a fair trial.
You know, this is one of the horrible offshoots of what is going on here. The effort by Trump and his allies to undermine the rule of law. And again, I have to say the press is extremely complicit in this. You know, every single day airing Trump's attacks on the rule of law in America. We don't have Democratic and Republican juries. We have juries. And there's not a shred of evidence that there's anything in this jury other than a dedication to looking at the evidence and coming to a fair verdict. We should not fall victim to another attempt to destroy our democracy by Donald Trump and his allies by calling into question the rule of law.